This movement of spirit reflects the dialectical progression through which it comes to understand itself and its relationship to essence. Each stage, whether the substantial immediacy of faith, the alienated reflection of self-consciousness, or the reconciliation that follows, represents a necessary moment in spirit's development. The demand for the absolute to be intuited or felt rather than comprehended through the concept must be understood within this broader context. It reflects a longing to return to the immediacy of faith, to the simplicity and certainty of a substantial connection to essence. Yet spirit cannot regress. Its development moves inexorably forward, and its reconciliation with essence must now take the form of a self-conscious, conceptual unity. Thus, the surpassing of these earlier stages is not a rejection of their significance, but a fulfillment of their potential. Spirit has moved beyond the immediacy of faith and the abstraction of reflection, not to abandon them, but to preserve and sublate them in a higher form of unity. This movement is the essence of spirit's journey, a dynamic progression through which it comes to know itself as the living unity of thought, essence, and existence. It is from this standpoint that the demand for intuition and feeling must be critically evaluated, not as a return to the past, but as a moment within the broader unfolding of spirit's self-conscious reconciliation with truth. The essential life of spirit is not merely forgotten or obscured, it is consciously lost. Spirit is acutely aware of this loss, and this awareness becomes central to its condition. It recognizes not only the absence of the substantial life it once knew, but also the finitude and limitations that now define its content. This self-awareness, far from providing clarity or resolution, deepens its sense of alienation. Spirit sees its current state as impoverished and fragmented, devoid of the fullness and unity it once experienced. This recognition does not bring immediate reconciliation. Rather, it intensifies its longing for a return to that earlier condition of wholeness and certainty. In turning away from what it perceives as the dregs of its current state, spirit acknowledges its wretchedness. This acknowledgement is not merely passive resignation, it is an active lament, an expression of dissatisfaction and despair over the loss of its essential life. Spirit does not merely exist in this wretchedness, it confronts it, reflecting on the gap between its present state and the substantiality it once held. Yet this confrontation, though painful, carries with it the seed of transformation, for it marks the beginning of a demand for something greater. From philosophy, spirit now demands not so much knowledge of what it is, an abstract understanding of its current state, but a restoration of what it has lost. This demand is not merely for theoretical insight or conceptual clarity, but for a return to substantiality and solidity, to a mode of being that feels grounded and whole. Spirit longs for a reconciliation that can reintegrate the fragmented aspects of its existence, restoring the unity and vitality that characterized its essential life. This is not a call for philosophy to reflect spirit's current condition back to it, but for philosophy to serve as a means of transcendence, a path through which spirit can recover its lost essence. This demand reflects both the depth of spirit's despair and the intensity of its hope. In acknowledging its wretchedness, spirit implicitly recognizes the possibility of overcoming it. The very act of lamenting its loss reveals that spirit does not accept its current condition as final. It senses that the life it seeks lies beyond its immediate circumstances. This is where philosophy enters, not as a passive mirror, but as an active force that can guide spirit toward the realization of its potential. Philosophy, in this sense, is tasked not merely with interpreting the world or explaining spirit's alienation, but with offering a pathway toward its reconciliation and fulfillment. The restoration spirit seeks, however, is not a simple return to the immediacy of its earlier life. What is demanded is not a naive restoration of the past, but a higher synthesis that integrates the lessons of its journey. The solidity and substantiality spirit desires cannot be the same as what it once knew, for its development has irrevocably transformed it. The restoration must account for the alienation, the finitude, and the reflection that now constitute spirit's self-consciousness. It must offer not a static being, but a living unity, one that reconciles spirit's substance with its subjectivity, its being with its thought. Thus, spirit's demand from philosophy is profound. It calls for a truth that does not merely describe its fragmented state, but actively heals and elevates it. Philosophy is summoned to fulfill its highest task, to serve as the medium through which spirit overcomes its wretchedness and realizes its essential life anew, not as a return to the past, but as a forward movement toward the full reconciliation of thought, being, and self-consciousness. Philosophy, under the weight of such expectations, is not called upon to perform its highest task, to unlock the closed-off nature of substance and elevate it to self-consciousness, revealing its inner necessity and reconciling it with thought. Nor is it asked to guide chaotic and fragmented consciousness back toward the ordered simplicity of the concept, where distinctions are clarified and unified through the dialectical movement of reason. These profound endeavors, which define the true purpose of philosophy, are overshadowed by a very different demand: the call to dissolve the distinctions of thought, suppress the differentiating power of the concept, and re-establish a primal, undifferentiated feeling of essence. This expectation does not seek insight or understanding, which require the labor of thought and the mediation of the concept. Instead, it asks for edification, a return to a state of immediate unity with the Absolute, unencumbered by the complexities and tensions of reflection. The demand reflects a yearning to bypass the challenges of systematic inquiry and dialectical development, retreating instead to a simpler, more comforting relationship with essence, a relationship characterized by feeling and intuition rather than thought and comprehension. In this framework, distinctions, those precise and necessary markers of thought, are seen not as tools for uncovering the inner structure of reality, but as obstacles that fragment and obscure its essence. The concept, which mediates and synthesizes, is perceived as disruptive, introducing divisions where there should be unity. The desire to suppress the concept is a desire to eliminate the tensions and contradictions inherent in the movement of thought, to return to a state where being is felt as whole and undivided. Yet such a retreat into feeling risks abandoning the true work of philosophy. The labor of thought, with its careful differentiation and mediation, is not a denial of essence, but its revelation. The distinctions of thought do not destroy unity, they make it intelligible, transforming it from a vague immediacy into a comprehended totality. Suppressing the concept may provide temporary comfort, but it leaves the deeper questions unresolved, offering the semblance of reconciliation without its substance. The call for edification rather than insight reveals a tension between two visions of philosophy. One sees philosophy as a means of achieving understanding, where truth is revealed through the rigorous unfolding of thought. The other seeks philosophy as a source of solace, where truth is felt rather than known, and the complexities of reflection are set aside in favor of an undivided experience of essence. These visions are not easily reconciled, for the former demands the hard work of conceptual engagement, while the latter seeks to bypass it altogether. Philosophy's task, however, cannot be reduced to providing edification alone. While the yearning for a direct connection with essence is understandable, it must be recognized as incomplete. Feeling and intuition, though vital as moments of experience, cannot replace the concept's role in mediating and articulating the truth. Philosophy must rise above the demand for mere edification, fulfilling its role as the science of truth, where distinctions and concepts are not suppressed but elevated into the unity of reason. In doing so, philosophy does not negate the importance of essence or the value of feeling. Rather, it integrates them into a higher synthesis. The feeling of essence becomes richer and more profound when it is illuminated by the clarity of thought, and the distinctions of the concept, far from fragmenting unity, reveal the dynamic and living structure of the whole. Insight and edification are not mutually exclusive. They find their true fulfillment in a philosophy that unites the immediacy of experience with the mediation of reason, offering not only the feeling of truth, but its comprehension. The beautiful, the sacred, the eternal, religion, and love, these are invoked as the alluring bait necessary to awaken the desire for engagement with philosophy. These concepts, rich with emotional resonance and aesthetic appeal, are not called upon as objects of rigorous thought or vehicles for the systematic development of truth, but as instruments to inspire and captivate. They serve as a summons to partake, but not in the cold precision of the concept. Instead, it is ecstasy, an unmediated and rapturous encounter with essence that is sought. This demand does not yearn for the deliberate and measured unfolding of the necessity inherent in the matter itself. Rather, it longs for fermenting enthusiasm, a passionate and unrestrained mode of experience as the means of grasping and spreading the richness of substance.